Well, it's that time again, as it has been officially 3 years since we got the debut of Mario in his first feature film. And I mean real feature film, as in not the live action one. But instead a big animated feature from the guys who made Despicable Me, and one that feels more like the actual games. The movie itself was fine, not amazing, but as someone who does consider themselves a big fan of Mario, it was a decent introduction for this character to appear in a movie. With how much investment I gave to the last Mario movie, I felt obligated to make a review of the sequel by the time that showed up. The first film did lay the groundwork for a potential good sequel, and I was hoping with the faults of the first movie that Illumination and Nintendo would end up making a sequel that did what Sonic 2 did for Sonic 1. Improve and expand upon what made the first a decent adaptation of an iconic video game character, leading to a really good movie franchise that gives more life to these characters that we love. Well, they certainly had the right idea with expanding upon it, as it's not just the Super Mario Bros. Movie 2, it's Mario Galaxy! Yeah! Wait, isn't that a little too soon? I can see why Nintendo wants to capitalize on one of their most successful games, especially now when a lot of people are having nostalgia for Mario Galaxy. Yet, I don't know, I feel like maybe that's jumping the gun a bit too soon. I feel Mario Galaxy would have been more suited for a third movie, given how much more relatively new it is compared to the classic Mario games of old. But I guess Mario 64 the movie doesn't spring off the tongue as well. It's not too big of a deal though, as Mario Galaxy would be a cool game to see adapted into a movie. And this was still giving us stuff we wanted to see in a Mario sequel. You got Bowser Jr., here as expected, this time played by Uncut Gems director Benny Safdie?
I don't think any of us expected that.
And also as expected, Yoshi is here, played by Donald Glover, which is kinda hilarious too. These things would be good for a Mario sequel, and with it being another Mario movie, this does add one other character that definitely made my interest peak. I knew for a fact that if a Mario sequel includes this character, I have no choice but to talk about it, cause it needs to be stated. They brought back my man Wart! Seriously, we haven't seen this dude since Mario 2. What a great comeback. Such an underrated villain. So yeah, felt obligated to review the Mario movie cause my curiosity has piqued with how they could adapt an iconic game into a potentially enjoyable movie, and how they could improve from a movie that was ultimately fun. So with all of that said and done, how is Mario Galaxy, the movie? Well, I have to admit, my feelings on this movie are a little bit more complicated than what you would think. As a follow-up to Illumination's The Mario movie, it works just fine. It doesn't come unrecommended, as there are elements that do create for a movie that is at the bare minimum entertaining. It felt like Illumination and Nintendo made these Mario movies with the mindset of being action movies made for kids. Nothing inherently wrong with that, as they do manage to work as simple adventure movies, and that's mostly thanks to the animation work. These movies are some of the best from Illumination from a visual perspective, as they not only stay true to the look of the games, but they do a lot with these action set pieces, creating for an experience that is a fun time. Nintendo seems to have made these movies similarly to their games, where their main purpose is to make sure the audience has fun. And for kids, that will work well for them. This movie even made a few improvements to the first film, as only one licensed song this time around, and it's pretty brief and at the beginning of the movie. A good thing to note, as that was an issue the last Mario movie had in terms of blatantly adding songs when they already had a good score to it. The fact that the focus mostly went to the Mario Galaxy music was a very welcome addition. It also does give you a better idea of Mario and Luigi's dynamic in this film, which was admittedly lacking in the previous one. And Peach does get some moments to shine pretty well as a character. It's enjoyable to see these Mario characters be a part of a lot of these set pieces, with a few bits that, while not laugh out loud funny, did gave me a little bit of a chuckle. At the end was Bowser Jr., being a solid addition voiced well by Benny Safdie, and Yoshi worked okay as a cute, lovable sidekick. It's what you would expect from a Mario movie, as it does have what made the first enjoyable. Where the movie falters a bit for me, however, is that this is a film that's a lot of flash and not a lot of substance. Now, some might say that might be asking for too much for something like a Mario movie. This is a series where the plot tends to be pretty simple, more or less, with a basic save the princess sort of deal most of the time. I get that mindset, but it does drag the film for me when there's not a lot to chew on when it comes to seeing these characters be more than what they are from the game. It's sort of surface level relationship stuff, and while the acting is fine, and I think the characterizations are fairly accurate to what Mario is about, it does leave me wanting a little bit more to them. The movie doesn't have a lot of time to breathe, as it goes from set piece to set piece, and not really any time to make these characters be more than just typical archetypes. It might sound like I'm asking a bit much for something like a Mario movie, but considering other kids' movies do go that extra mile, there's a strong part of me that kinda hoped this had a little bit more heart to it. What really makes me have this issue in particular is when looking at Mario Galaxy itself. Sure, it's still simple at its core in terms of Mario adventures. However, the game still had a bit of heart to it. I almost felt this movie could have gotten more of that emotional substance if it didn't miss an opportunity to really give these characters an impact. That's no more apparent than an element that I want to discuss regarding this movie, but can't really do so without going into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, or just don't care about spoilers, just skip to this timestamp and you'll just hear the rest of my basic overall non-spoiler thoughts from there. Because in order to talk about my biggest issue on this being a Mario movie sequel, and not going all the way and improving, we gotta talk about the element that made me kind of excited for this movie. And no, it's not actually Wart. Although, I do love that he's in this movie as a fun callback to an obscure Mario character, and I find him being a mob boss type absolutely hilarious. The real draw for this movie, for me, was Rosalina. Now, if you don't know this already, unless if you know me pretty well, Rosalina is easily my favorite Mario character. Some suggest she's just a recolor of Peach looking more like Elsa and a bit more emo, even though Rosalina came out before Elsa. But I've always loved the elegance and grace Rosalina has in the Mario series. So well designed, and having her backstory of being more of an orphan to essentially help raise the Lumas adds a lot of heart to a fairly simple game. I felt maybe this movie could have gone into that, and it was seemingly really promising at first. It looked like she was kicking some major ass. An added bonus was Envy Adams voicing the character. A match made in heaven, having Scott Pilgrim alum Brie Larson voicing my favorite Mario character. And for what it's worth, she was a fantastic choice.
You should so totally come.
You still get that a bit here, with some cool moments with her as a character, and Brie does a great job voicing her. However, there's just one little problem. For a movie that is called Mario Galaxy, being based off the game featuring her, Rosalina doesn't get a lot of screen time. It pains me to say this, but yeah, most of her footage was already shown in the trailers, and she's mostly there as the person to be saved by the cast. Which, for Rosalina, I think scaling her down as a bit of a damsel feels a bit underwhelming. I feel she's a lot more capable of stuff to be regulated as someone to be saved. There's a little change in her backstory, and it kind of works for this movie in terms of adding a connection to another major character, but it's not nearly as heartwarming as the original backstory, and it still feels like the movie underplays it more than they should have. It could have been a major heart and soul of the movie, and they opted not to in favor of set pieces. Yet the strange thing regarding all of this is that instead of Rosalina being a focus, they decided to give us a curveball. In Mario Galaxy, we don't get a focus on Rosalina, and in placement of more screen time for her, we get something else. That being an appearance by Star Fox. Holy shit! Star Fox is in this movie! Wait, Star Fox is in this movie? Now, I want to set the record straight. In regard to Nintendo franchises, next to Metroid and maybe Donkey Kong, Star Fox is my favorite Nintendo series. Sure, it hasn't always been as consistent in quality, especially with some not so good games. But this series is still iconic, just for the good games alone, both in terms of classic SNES title, underrated gem, and Star Fox 64 being one of the most iconic games of the N64 era. There's no denying that.
Do a barrel roll!
This series is kind of underrepresented, with it being about a decade since the last Star Fox game in the series. So, there's a strong part of me that loves this surprise. That is, it would have been a surprise if Nintendo didn't blow their load and reveal it a week before the movie came out. Seriously, Nintendo, you couldn't wait just a week? And more notably, as cool as this all is, it also feels completely out of place towards a movie that would have been fine without it. I'm not sure this is the best trade-off when this movie really could have benefited from more Rosalina, and fleshing her out as a character to give this movie more of that emotional punch to really care for what's going on. Star Fox in this does feel like a weird detour to advertise a potential Star Fox movie, which, as a pitch for a Star Fox movie, this is done really well. I love the way Fox looks, the action scenes are great with him, he's characterized fairly well, and even the casting of Glenn Powell is a great choice. There's even this awesome anime-like intro for the character. It's all well done, but it's bogged down by the fact that this is all in the wrong movie to be featured in. This is a Mario Galaxy movie. It probably needed more Rosalina. I'd rather see this in a Star Fox movie. It wouldn't bother me so much, except this isn't even part of the same franchise! Outside of Super Smash Bros. And the occasional Easter egg Fox and Mario have in their respective games, these characters never really interacted. Fox wasn't even a character in Mario Kart. So, this does feel a bit excessive, making this film a bit overcrowded for what it should have been focused on. It almost felt like Nintendo was really trying to go all in, making this Mario universe a bigger universe for all of their franchises. But they did it in a way where it was more fixated on a big universe than just simply making one decent movie first. It feels almost like how the DC Cinematic Universe did a little too much early on. And it's bizarre to see this, especially with how well the Sonic movies did it. There was more of a sense of them spacing things out between films and introducing the right things at the right time to make a proper movie franchise for Sonic. Here, they just decided to put all of their money on a second film, and it feels like the focus isn't where it should be at points in terms of making a movie that expand upon these characters. It proves to me that Mario Galaxy should have been saved for a third movie, instead of cramming all this stuff into one film. It needed to have more of an emotional core than just being a bit of an advertisement for Nintendo. And I feel bad saying this, cause this movie tried to appeal to me big time. Having Star Fox and Rosalina are both things on their own that would make for an awesome movie experience. I just seriously wish they didn't shift the focus on the wrong thing in the wrong movie, while the element that seemed perfect for this felt a tiny bit underwhelming. So admittedly, I wish this Mario movie was a bit more of an improvement of the first film than just another Mario movie that's a little more crowded. Though even despite my gripes with it, I didn't think this movie was bad. It's definitely not a masterpiece, and I wouldn't even say it's that great of a movie, but I can't say I was bored by it either. It does at least the bare minimum of giving you an enjoyable movie with some fun set pieces, with these lovable video game characters. So I can at least appreciate for that. This movie isn't worse than AI like some people are claiming it is, because there still is a charm and love scene for the games in this movie. It's just a movie that suffers more from being a lot of flash with little substance. And it is an issue given that Mario could have been expanded upon better than just an action movie for kids. But as far as an action movie for kids, it's enjoyable enough. especially if you're into Nintendo and Mario like I am. It is a fan service movie, but at least it's not a terrible time at the theater if you're looking for something that has enough color and flair to it that makes it fun to watch Mario go on another adventure on the big screen. A good movie for kids and a decent time for Mario fans, even if it could have been more of an out-of-this-world experience than what we actually got, considering the source material. So take that for what it's worth. And maybe next time we'll get Rosalina put to better use in a movie, hopefully. Or a decent Star Fox movie without being shoehorned into a Mario movie. Whichever comes first. I'm going to give Super Mario Galaxy, the movie, a 6 out of 10. So yeah, those were my thoughts on the Mario movie. What did you guys think of it if you happen to see it already? Let me know, comment below. Let me know if there's any other Nintendo franchise you want to see on the big screen. And I'll see you guys again in the near future. Later.